power in just about every corner of the pitch.
Yeah, I think, you look at Barnett, he's had an exceptional World Cup, and he just chimes in off the back of, you look at the size of those boys. You've got Vainicolo on one wing, then you've got Carroll and Talau in the centres. They're huge guys as well. Vagana's all pace, but I think it's, 6 and 7 are going to pull all the strings. You've got Wiki there who plays centre, playing 13 loose forward. Kearney there, he's a great player, and the two tough lads in the front, Smith and Ponga. They'll just set the battle. They'll take the battle of the English forwards. Have big battle for the front five of the English side. So, that's quality order. And I think the important thing is the bench. You've got Robbie Paul on the bench to cover the half backs. Joe Vagana will come on after 20 minutes to try and hit some holds in again. And Logan Swan just gives them that little bit of pace as well. So it's a very, very powerful squad order. And the advantage that they have is coming off the substitutes bench. You have to for the impact game. That is a far stronger bench than the English.
Yeah. Take a look for us, Dennis, at the England lineup, and well, there's the New Zealand dressing room, and the message would have got through there now, I'm sure, that the kickoff has been slightly delayed here at the Reebok Stadium because of congestion outside the ground, some 3 or 4 minutes delayed to the kickoff. But that England lineup, we talk about strength on the bench, and really John Keir has got plenty of options with his starting 14 and the way he puts the bench together.
I think his bench has suffered with having to bring Smith in from the start. John Keir obviously feels that Johnny Smith's warranted a starting place and can give him enough things from the beginning of the game, but he's lost that impact. Peacock has been going very, very well off the bench. He's gone for all forwards. He's gone for a fact that he thinks it's going to be a battle up front. So he's going to do plenty of changing over from his forwards. And the biggest thing is Morley. Morley's a big loss to this side today. He's been carrying injury throughout most of the tournament, but he's a big game player. He played so well in the last couple of test matches, and he will be sorely missed. And then Sculthorpe, he's missed 3 weeks, he's had a torn hamstring. He's got a lot of passion, a lot of pride, and his form was fantastic coming out of the competition, but can he carry that in to this game after having so long off with such a terrible injury?
Yeah. But Sculthorpe's return is a bonus for him.
It's a bonus in the fact that they've got somebody of his quality to be able to pull into the side after losing Adrian Morley. You'd like to have seen him coming off the bench after being out for 3 weeks with Morley, and he would have had a lot more options from his bench. But he's looking for a lot of impact from his bench, and I think he knows it's going to be a war up front because of the shape of his bench.
Yeah, Dennis said number 9 there, Tony Smith. I think he could have a huge impact on today's game. They haven't seen him play much apart from the World Cup. He's exceptionally quick. He's a great support player. So that they will be very, very organised defensively, the New Zealanders. But he has that extra pace, from the play of the ball that could worry them. And if they do worry them, and he cuts through with Sean Long there and Radlinski, good support players, he could have a huge impact on the game. And I think he's gone for Tony Smith instead of Rowley because of the pace that Tony Smith has.
Smith enjoys playing against New Zealand as well. I think in the last couple of test matches against them, he has had an impact on the game, and he has been a bearing factor in getting a draw out of the game, scoring vital tries, and being very effective. So he'll be happy that he's starting.
He's tough as a nut as well. He'll get piled in, and he'll hit hard.
He's Wigan's loss after last year.
Much has been made in the build-up to this match, the fact that the New Zealanders have yet to have a really physical battle in this competition. This will be the first one. Is that an element?
I don't think it will be, no, because even though the teams are lesser sides, it's body against body, it's athlete against athlete. There's some of the finest athletes in the world been playing this competition, and we've not had the stadium full enough to appreciate what they've been missing. And they've been tested, they've had to tackle, they've had to run hard into people, so they're used to match fit, and they're looking to step up again. They're coming into this game without carrying any injuries in their squad.
Andy Farrell at last getting the call to lead out England. It's got to be a performance of a dramatic intensity from England this afternoon.
Yeah, they've got to match the intensity that they had against Ireland, but pick the level up another maybe 10-20% if they have to beat them. Defensively, they have to be extremely strong because these will come for 80 minutes. The Kiwis, and any chances that they do create, they have to finish because there won't be any second chances.
Well, this is a huge match for both sides, and I'm glad to say that when they come out into the Reebok Stadium, they're going to find it pretty well 2/3 full with a tremendous atmosphere building up. But the kickoff delayed because, well, crowds are still trying to get in from the surrounding area. Traffic still trying to make its way through this very murky gloom on this Bolton afternoon, and they'll just about get inside for the kick-off, because the teams coming out onto the field, the match that all England's build-up and preparation has been aimed at, the first semi-final of the Lincoln Financial Group Rugby League World Cup. England against New Zealand at the Reebok Stadium here in Bolton. Now that the firecrackers have welcomed the teams, what further pyrotechnics are we in for as we join our commentary team of Joe Lydon and John Champion.
Nothing like a quiet afternoon in Bolton, is there? And this is nothing like a quiet afternoon. The two teams lining up for the national anthems. At last we've reached the business end of the tournament, the World Cup final tantalisingly close. No more second chances. First, the anthem of New Zealand, which is going to be performed by Chris Fennessy, a singer from Dunedin who's currently appearing in Napoleon in the West End. Of Kiwi support, and now the chosen anthem of England. This to be performed by Greg Morton from the band Fused, who provided some of the pre-match entertainment. Land of Hope and Glory. There's been a fair degree of secrecy over team selection for this semi-final. This England lineup was only unveiled an hour ago, and one of the reasons John Keir has kept his thoughts to himself was to cover up a back injury sustained by Adrian Morley. His loss is offset by the availability of Paul Sculthorpe, who's missed the rest of the tournament so far with hamstring trouble. Tony Smith gets the nod over Paul Rowley at hooker. And England's first task is to face up to this haka. As for the New Zealand lineup, they've been more open, and in fact guessing their selection was straightforward. Such is their strength in depth that Robbie Paul is only a substitute. Stacey Jones starts alongside Henry Paul. Former captain Quentin Pongia and second row Stephen Kearney are the leaders of a formidable pack. 2 of 6 players who remain from the team beaten by Australia in extra time in the semi-final 5 years ago. The 2 captains, Andrew Farrell of England, who only passed a fitness test an hour ago on a back injury sustained in training yesterday, and his New Zealand counterpart, Richie Barnett, outstanding so far, and a father. As of Thursday, his wife, Carrie, has just given birth to a baby girl. And the referee from Brisbane, 39-year-old Tim Mander. A couple of historical points that are worth bearing in mind. England, who are going to kick off, have never lost to New Zealand. They've met 3 times before. New Zealand, for all their current quality, have never won the World Cup. And only once before, in 1988, had they even reached the final. Alongside me, Joe Lydon. Now, England have got a 14-point start on the Rugby League coupon. Where do you sit with regard to this one?
I think that's probably justified. Punters are saying that giving New Zealand the favourites tag for this match, but it is the business end of the season, as you rightly mentioned, and it's just a one-off game which both are capable and well capable of winning.
Big Ten, no stop.
England very relieved to be able to name the lineup that they'd planned.
Inside, offside.
Andrew Farrell's participation in doubt up until 2 o'clock this afternoon. And here's Chev Walker. Walker and Wellens included on the wings for England today, respectively aged 18 and 20. So it's a massive test for them.
Wait for it here.
This is Harvey Howard. The bench for England, you may have seen on our caption, 4 forwards: Jamie Peacock, Andy Hay, Darren Fleary and Paul Anderson. But this opening 20 minutes so crucial to England's hopes if they are going to cause an upset. Tony Smith selected ahead of Paul Rowley at hooker, and here's Scott Naylor, who's regained his place in the centre.
That bench you mentioned, John Keir, the England coach, having to play his hand very, very early. He would have liked, I'm sure, to have some options on the bench, including backs, but injuries have forced him to start with Tony Smith in the hooking position, and a couple of backs that he would have liked to have had there through injury, unable to pick.
But how big a loss is the absence of Adrian Morley? Let's hear from Richard Duckenfield.
Well, one thing's for sure, John, Adrian Morley is not merely a spectator today. He's down here on the England bench. It says trainer on his back, but you can guess he's going to be a water carrier. So maybe the kind of wisdom that Morley can bring to this game when he's on the pitch will still be there, because he can get on maybe at some point and talk to his colleagues.
Adrian Morley alongside Damien McGrath, the assistant coach to John Keir, down on the bench there. And a high-octane start to this World Cup semi-final here in Bolton. The crowd growing all the time. They have had traffic problems, hence the delay to the kick-off. But only 20 metres out, New Zealand. And this is Richard Swain there, industrious hooker.
Targeted Tony Smith, 2 ran straight at his opposite number, trying to find a little bit of a weakness, but there was none there, but there is here.
And Stephen Kearney is in for the first try after less than 3 minutes of play. Just the start that England could not afford.
Well, the inspirational Kiwi found the gap. It was a lovely pass, but it was poor defence, it's got to be said, so early in the game when you would expect everything to be so tight. It's an area of the game that England have worked so hard on to make sure in the last third of the field, as far as New Zealand are concerned, they are sure and steadfast. But a nice pass here, Henry Paul receiving it. There's options, 2 runners, Kearney taking the short ball and the step, and Radlinski just couldn't get back in time. He was wrong-footed, and Kearney scores the first try, an opening try, and a very, very important one. Stacey Jones, the wide ball to Henry Paul, just fixes the defensive line, looks at it, finds the gap. There was just a suggestion that maybe a little bit forward, but Kearney hit the ball so well at its pace, and the step as well, only the referee in his way, and he just checked with the touch judges to make sure there was nothing wrong with the pass.
Stephen Kearney, who, if New Zealand do make the final, will become his country's most capped forward ever. Henry Paul adding on the extra 2 points from slap bang in front of the post. I'm conscious, Joe, that we do have viewers live in New Zealand and in Australia, for that matter, watching these pictures and listening to this commentary, and they'll be quite happy, particularly the New Zealanders, with that scoreline. But this, from an English perspective, looked worryingly easy.
It was very easy, and I'm sure John Keir and the coaching staff will be alarmed by this. There was a huge gap there. The second rows on the right-hand side hadn't moved across. There was an opening, and Kearney's the kind of person that can take it. He's a great athlete, and that was quite an easy try from New Zealand's point of view. Frank Endicott, their coach, will be well pleased.
So whilst we said it was just the start that England couldn't afford, for Henry Paul, who's brought up a century of test match points, and for New Zealand, it's just the start that they would have desired and wanted. The one question mark put against them in the build-up to this match is that they haven't really had a particularly tough hit-out so far. Comfortable wins over the Lebanon, the Cook Islands, Wales, and then France in the quarter-final at Castleford last week. But Frank Endicott has been keen to put that rumour aside and say, look, we're tuned up for this, we're ready for it, and we're going to win it. And for Frank Endicott, who gives up the coaching job with New Zealand after this tournament, it is a very important and significant afternoon. Here's Radlinski.
That'll be a feature of this afternoon's game, where the conditions very damp underfoot and the ball being made increasingly more and more slippy. Then the kick's going to be an option. New Zealand have used it to good effect during this competition, scoring more tries than any other nation from kicks. But I think you'll see both teams this afternoon putting the kicks downfield, trying to turn the defensive lines and putting good kick chases on. New Zealand has got to be said have started the better of this game. Not only try, but field position as well. They've dominated.
Here's Sean Long of St Helens, and now Farrell, the captain from Wigan. Naylor, one of 6 players selected in the English lineup from the Bradford Bulls. Back to the boot of Long this time. His first kick of the game went dead, and that might follow suit.
Yeah, that's poor. We mentioned the kick being so important, and the chase was there, but it was just too much on the kick. Didn't cause any problems for New Zealand. They'll be happy to bring this one back to the 20-metre for the restart. It was a core move. You can see the chasing line there to the left, quite flat and straight, but they realised as soon as the boot had made contact with the ball, it was going to be too strong.
Swain at dummy half, and Quentin Pongia, the captain on the 1998 tour, when New Zealand won the Test series against Great Britain, 2-0 with a thrilling draw in the final test at Watford. Pongia just back from a severed tendon in a bicep. He only played 4 times in the NRL for the Sydney Roosters this past season, but he's looked fully fit in this tournament. The kick from Jones. Going to test out Chev Walker, the 18-year-old wingman.
That'll settle Walker, the youngster, a little bit. Up against Vanakola, a big task for him this afternoon. Not only to stop him in defence, but also to try and make some yardage past the big man.
Long. Now Paul Wellens, who's being employed on the wing ahead of Darren Rogers, who's played the last 3 games. Harvey Howard, the one English player who plays his club rugby abroad. Grand final winner with the Brisbane Broncos. Farrell. And if England are going to have any impact on this game, then Farrell and Long are going to have to play lead roles.
Exactly right, and he picked out Stacey Jones, probably the smallest of the Kiwis. Ran at him again, trying to find a weakness, but Stacey Jones stuck to him on that occasion. You'll find Jones defending on that right-hand side, pushed out towards the touchline. It was a good tackle on this occasion, and then the kick in from Smith. It's an acting half-back position, just rolling into touch.
You can see there that they've had to extend the playing area for this game. That band of turf on the far side is outside the normal pitch for the Bolton Wanderers soccer matches played on this ground.
This is the time where England now have to make their mark in defence. They have to try and keep the Kiwis confined to this area of the field, not let them break out. Barnett's one player that can make yardage. So quick from acting half-back, and they're a mistake, holding down, and that's exactly what England didn't need. A penalty against them gives the New Zealanders an easy piggyback downfield, a kick from Henry Paul to touch. Just holding down too long in the tackle. Barnett struggling to his feet, and Sculthorpe giving away the penalty.
Pongia. One or two ironic cheers from the crowd, which is still growing in size at that decision from referee Manda, because Antipodean match officials are usually a little more lenient on the play the ball area. Swain to Kearney, the scorer of the only try so far. Now Henry Paul, the short pass to Wiki, the loose forward.
I was watching the New Zealanders in training during the week, and they worked so hard on that, the inside pass, just testing the inside shoulder of the defender, working down the middle of the ruck, particularly when they get inside the 20-metre zone. You'll see Stacey Jones and Henry Paul bringing on the bigger forwards and trying to cause problems on the inside shoulder of defenders.
Swain with the kick, and Willie Tallow is chasing. Chev Walker did well.
Well, Chev Walker did very well. He just allowed that to go. I don't think he made contact with it before it crossed the dead ball line. Very cool and calm. We're just going to check with the referee. He says it's going to be a dropout. Now just watch this as the kick comes through from Swain. Walker is back there, has it covered, making sure that his body is between ball and oncoming New Zealand player. Yep, just caught his left arm. Well spotted by the touch judge and referee, so it'll be a dropout underneath the post to England, and ball back to New Zealand with another chance to attack.
Chilly afternoon in Bolton. Some of the smoke still hovering over the ground after the pre-match fireworks. And here's Swain. Now Pongia. 10 minutes of play. Kearney's try, goal by Henry Paul, separating these sides. Let's hear once again from Richard Duckenfield.
The England coach, John Keir, has identified what he thinks is a weakness in this England side. The message has come down to the bench that the line is ragged. He wants the line straight. He wants them to move up more quickly with more coordination.
Well, Craig Smith made more progress than England would have wanted there inside the 10-metre area. This is Richard Swain, and now Stacey Jones, the cover provided by Radlinski, the English fullback, and it's the last tackle. New Zealand lining up. Which option will they choose? They're going for the drop goal from Henry Paul for one more point.
A simple 1 point, but so effective. They had options both sides. They chose, I think this might have been a thought before kick-off, when we get down into England's half, let's try and score on every visit, and they go for the 1 point through Henry Paul on this occasion. Simply back to the number 6, directly behind the play of the ball and in front of the post, and slots an easy 1 point from the boot. But John Keir is right to identify that England are a little bit ragged in the defensive line. They're moving up at different speeds, and therefore there are gaps, and they will be exploited by New Zealand. As I said, they've worked very, very hard on it. We mentioned the kicking being so important for the teams, but I also think the prop forwards, Pongia returning to the team, gives an awful lot of go forward for New Zealand. And we'll see his stats during this test match, this semi-final, on screen.
And here's Craig Smith, who had to build the position for Henry Paul's drop goal attempt. And we will have seen the blood bin card raised by referee Manda. Richard Swain, the hooker, is off having attention for a cut. And this is where England are really trying to pile on the defensive pressure.
They don't want to give a penalty away. Remember the last time they were visited New Zealand's half of the field, and this man in possession, Barnett, took the charge forward, then they gave away a soft penalty and let New Zealand come away from their own half.
Henry Paul is held by Fielden, but the referee has given the penalty to New Zealand, and it's been quickly taken. And Henry Paul thought he was going to be called back. He wasn't, so it's play on.
Well, again, a soft penalty given away. Fielden just forcing the player down, and Henry Paul took the quick tap. And once again, New Zealand straight back into England's half. The problems mount.
Richard Swain back out there now in possession and with a white headband. He started off with a black one, but now a bandage has replaced that. He's been stitched up, or patched up at least.
And a rare mistake from Swain, just spilling the ball on the tackle. There was nothing illegal, but 3 players in there forcing the error from Swain. So England now get the chance to come out of their own half by driving it forward. They're using the youngster winger Chev Walker down the right-hand side. I'm sure they'll look pretty quickly to the kick once the forwards have made good yardage. And Anderson coming on from the bench.
It's Anderson, a formidable figure at 6'2" and 19 stone. Here's Stuart Fielden, who's so impressed in this tournament, and this time England get a penalty for offside against New Zealand.
Well, that's the first, I think, from England's point of view, and I think this will be a chance for 2 points. Tim Mann, the referee, just checking, seeing that 4 players at least were offside in front of him in the defensive line for New Zealand. And Farrell decides to go for touch and build a platform for his English forwards to charge forward. Anderson, the man who takes responsibility.
Obviously, the New Zealand bench feel that Richard Swain is too important to lose in this game. He should have had stitches, really. He's been patched up, back on the field. Swain, of course, is the Kiwis' top tackler in this competition. That's how important he is.
Long to Radlinski. The ball spilt, but it went backwards. Scott Naylor dropped upon it gratefully. Forshaw to Long. A little bit of uncertainty. The run around with Farrell. Now Senior, the ball's gone loose, and then there was an incident in back play where one of the New Zealanders was actually hauled back by the collar to prevent him getting to the loose ball.
Well, uncertainty, it's got to be said, that was sloppy from England. They looked very, very indecisive in their movements. Keith Senior coming back on the angle, but not really expecting the rugby ball. And they have to be a lot sharper if they're going to trouble New Zealand in defence.
Well, England have the feed at the scrum. New Zealand feel a little hard done by because Tony Carroll was clearly held back off the ball. But it's Deacon. And now Sean Long, missing out Senior, the long pass to Scott Naylor. New Zealand's cover defence as strong as it has been from kick-off. Chev Walker. Maybe the enthusiasm of youth will find a way through.
Well, it's nice to see Chev Walker coming back and helping out. He really needs to stay on his wing, because if Scott Naylor can produce an opening on the outside, he needs to be there to finish it off. Big hit in the middle of the field.
Really was a thunderous tackle by Pongia on Farrell. Now Paul Anderson. Biggest man on the field by a margin, and taking England to within 5 metres. Here's a real chance. Tony Smith. Farrell, the captain. Now Paul Deacon. Deacon turning, trying to find space, trying to find a gap. Here's Stuart Fielder. Still that 5 metre gap between England and the New Zealand line. It's the last tackle. And the diagonal kick is picked up all too easily by Stephen Kearney.
That was a poor kick. You had Chev Walker right on this right-hand touchline screaming for the ball. He wanted the kick to go high so he could challenge for it. The little kick along the floor was the wrong option, in my opinion. It could have either gone to the left through the hands or a high kick into the right-hand corner. And New Zealand will be pleased. They managed to stop England close to the line. It's an area, again, that England will have had to work on during the week.
Swain. Now Pongia. I know you do some of your work these days at this stadium. You have an office at Bolton and you watch the training session. Planning to see who was doing what, but unfortunately all the New Zealanders dressed in the same kit and all wore hats.
Very inconsiderate. Little spying mission failed. But they did look very sharp, though. They looked. The session was quality. Very few spilled balls in training. They were very effective, very professional, and went about their business.
Yes, New Zealand had a session here on Thursday. England chose to have a visit here on Monday. They have then been on a visit to a casino, the English players, as Craig Smith takes a spell for New Zealand. They've also been to visit the world's biggest fish and chip emporium in the course of the week. In fact, quite a lot of the week has been taken out with rest and recuperation in preparation for this semi-final. Short pass to Ruben Wiki. Back it goes now towards Nathan Kalis.
Fantastic offload by Wiki in traffic. Managed to get both hands free and look for support. And amongst English players, got the pass out as well. Referee Tim Mander just ruling there was a knock-on in there. Well, Anderson in there, the arm over the top. But judging that the ball carrier did not keep control, and the emphasis on he to do so.
Radlinski. England, who by common consent have steadily improved through the course of this tournament after their opening defeat by Australia. 76 points against Russia, 66 against Fiji, and then they really had to tough it out against the Irish in the quarter-final at Headingley last week. It's been a gradual build-up for them.
Well, let's hope they can gradually build up in this game as well, because the opening exchanges have been poor. Again, a mistake by England. They've looked shaky, the decision-making has been poor. The timing of pass and run has been not of the best quality, and quick penalties being given away. Easy penalties to Stacey Jones with ball in hand, but just kicking into touch, let his forwards take over. They'll work on the set patterns that they've practiced during the week.
It's Paul Sculthorpe who gave away the penalty. Here's Kalis for New Zealand. Kalis, who came off the bench in all 3 tests against Great Britain, including the one here 2 years ago. Pongia, the captain then. And New Zealand, every time they have the ball, looking full of threat. Jones, Henry Paul. Haven't seen Robbie yet. This is now Willie Talau.
You see 3 English players in the tackle, so there's a gap somewhere if New Zealand can find it.
And they have so many players who are capable of finding it. This time Henry Paul accepts the tackle. The ball not played properly, surely. It's a let-off for England.
It is a let-off as Henry Paul takes it in. Again, Anderson involved in the tackle, using his considerable weight to try and slow the play of the ball down, but New Zealand had a full back line out to the right-hand side, and England seemed to be stretched in defence. But a poor play of the ball, conditions not helping.
Deacon. Radlinski. Caught by his opposite number, Barnett. Long to Keith Senior. Familiar shaven skull. The rugged nature of New Zealand's tackling self-evident. England hoping for a penalty which is not forthcoming. Anderson. Now Tony Smith to Andy Farrell. Straightening up, finding a little bit of space and making 5 or 6 more metres, but still well short of halfway. Deacon. New Zealand with the lion's share of the ball. And with the only try so far scored by Stephen Kearney. Converted by Henry Paul. Scott Naylor laid out by Willie Talau. And the touch judge is on this near side.
Well, Scott Naylor put a little kick through. I didn't actually see the collision. He was seeing, just dabbed it through, a lovely weight to it. And yes, you're right, Talau put the shoulder in. He made sure that Scott Naylor wasn't going to pass and chase for his own kick. You don't have to go out of the way, but you can't charge into a player once he's put the kick in. And you see here, Talau dipping the shoulder. Has a little look as well, just to make sure he made contact. Scott Naylor will tell him he did.
And Jimmy Molyneux, the touch judge on this near side, had a bird's eye view of that. Hence this penalty. Smith with the tap. Darren Fleary of Leeds has just come on for his first involvement. Smith at dummy half. Sean Long. Paul Anderson with a bullocking run.
Anderson made an impact off the bench, hasn't he? Howard going off and Anderson coming on. In defence and attack, he's really taken it to the New Zealanders. Now they have a chance to the right. Scott Naylor maybe thinking about the hit he got after the kick, but he dropped that one. And another chance for England gone.
And Naylor trying to seek out some retribution on Willie Talau. He's still angry over the challenge a few moments ago.
More frustration at losing the ball, and a great opportunity for England. Long putting the pass out to the right. Scott Naylor just having a look at Talau, taking his eyes off the ball, and in conditions like this you can't afford to do it, and that's the result. Ball on the ground. Scott Naylor annoyed with himself.
No time and no place really for England, particularly today, to engage in personal vendettas. All their efforts and concentration have to be focused on the task in hand. Here's Barnett for New Zealand. He's scored 6 tries already in this tournament, just one short of the leading try scorer, Australia's Wendell Saylor. Joe Vangenaar, if reports are correct, soon to be of the Bradford Bulls. Stacey Jones. Back goes Radlinski, back goes Walker. The Volcano, Vainikolo, is right behind Chev Walker, who's dropped the ball. Vainikolo puts out a hand, gets downward pressure. Frank Endicott smiling and thinks that New Zealand have scored again. If they have, it's a horrible error by 18-year-old Chev Walker. But before he gives it, Tim Mander wants to consult the screen, but there's no question that the New Zealanders think that Vainikolo has scored.
It was a lovely weighted kick, wasn't it? Causing problems all the time for Chev Walker. He got back there, but Vainikolo comes screaming in to put pressure on him, and he just didn't collect it. He didn't take control of the rugby ball, and it spilled out. And whether Vainikolo got pressure on it and knocked it down himself, that's asking for the try now. No, Vainikolo just got a touch there. Yep, a knock on. Although downward pressure on that instance, the first contact was pushed forward, so I think this is a let-off for Chev Walker and for England. Again, a lovely weighted kick into the corner. Walker got back. Wet conditions, doesn't gather the ball in cleanly. And Leslie Vainikolo's there, but the first touch was forward. A let-off for England.
False alarm from the Volcano.
It was, you can see the rain there teeming down. Chev Walker slides in, can't control it, and he'll be relieved to see that on the big screen.
Bit of role reversal because Leslie Vainikolo played in the Anzac Day test against Australia back in April and was really tested out by the kicking of the Australians. This is no try, as Joe predicted. But Vainikolo is only 21 years of age, a little bit ahead of Chev Walker in terms of career development, but he's had his awkward moments, and a little bit of him would have felt for Walker.
I don't think so, not in this game.
Try to be kind.
He'll want to score this try. You'll see Vainikolo popping up across the field today, not just chasing kicks. I think you'll see him on the other side as well. I think New Zealand have got plans to try and test out the opposite centre in Keith Senior and give him multiple runners in which to worry about in defence.
John Keir's big motivation, the fact that the World Cup final next Saturday falls on his 46th birthday. He's been wanting to give himself one particular present for some time. Fleary. Back it goes to Deacon. And now Mike Forshaw, his Bradford teammate. Another Bradford man, Scott Naylor.
England are offloading the rugby ball, but they're not going forward at all. It's the New Zealand defence is pushing them back, and they have very few options in front of them, apart from the kick from Farrell. A little chip on this occasion. Sculthorpe is chasing, but well covered by Swain. In the right place, just tidying up behind his defensive line, making sure that any loose ends are looked after. Good defence from England.
Swain, one of only 2 players in New Zealand's 23-strong squad who have yet to cross the opposition try line. Joe Vangenaar is the other.
Leon Price of the Bradford Bulls on the bench today with a recovery from a shoulder operation. Leon, England needs something extra now, don't they?
Yeah, it's taken us 20 minutes really to get into gear. We've come out very slowly, but it looks like the boys need to mix up a little bit. England's a very strong side, so we just need to keep up going.
Thanks, Leon.
Rather untidy. New Zealand, though, have retained possession.
A little bit of good fortune with it, but they managed to keep the ball. They go for the kick now through Henry Paul.
Again, deep into English territory, well taken. Skipping, bouncing ball by Radlinski.
Well, there was an option for Radlinski to let that one run because I think that had too much pace on it, but he chose instead to bring it out. Senior now will help to try and cross the 40, sorry, cross the 20. He struggles, just about gets across there. Stacey Jones, one of the tacklers in there.
Oh, and there's a fight off the ball involving Senior and Joe Vangenaar, and teammates of both sides rushing in initially to try and separate them. There hasn't been much by way of ill feeling in this game, apart from the spat between Naylor and Talau, but this is altogether more widespread and serious.
Just walk that way. Yeah, walk away. Over here, Paul.
Tim Manager's going to ask the question now, just calming things down.
Yep.
Here Keith Senior trying to play the ball quickly. He threw the first one, and I don't think either caught the other with the punches, but quickly the players, the teammates rush in just to try and prevent it going any further. There'll be a lecture here from the referee, Tim Mander.
I've been reading in the papers all week, Joe, that the BBC are about to get back into big-time boxing. I think we're already there.
Well, that wasn't big time. I don't think any of those punches really landed, although there were a few haymakers thrown.
All sorted out relatively calmly by Tim Mander. If Joe Vangenaar does sign for the Bradford Bulls, it'll be an interesting contest when he comes up against Leeds next season. Here's Deacon. Now Long. Radlinski at pace, but there were 2 tacklers waiting for him. Forshaw.
Nice footwork from Forshaw just to get away from Kearney and Henry Paul.
Smith. Now Deacon. Now Paul Anderson.
Ruben Wiki forced to do some tackling in the middle of the field, but it's out wide where England have to try and exploit the gap, and again a misread. Total misread. Paul Sculthorpe timing the run wrong, and Farrell hit him with the pass. He just bounced off the shoulder. New Zealand gathering possession back again.
Well, the thought was that England had to be at their absolute best and New Zealand had to be below theirs if England were going to progress today. It's another penalty going against the English.
And Tim Mander's patience has been tested. As we see the top tackles there, England, all positions, top three of England, Forshaw leading it, coming into this game knowing that he had to defend well, but 18 tackles is an awful lot of work, and that will tell later on in these conditions. Heavy conditions will mean that legs will tire, but England giving away so many penalties. Tim Manders was saying his patience being tested, and I won't be at all surprised if a warning doesn't go out to the English captain Andy Farrell. Somebody may be spending 10 minutes in the bin if they persist in these tactics.
Well, Henry Paul, having consulted with the bench and with his captain, has decided that he's going to have a pot shot at goal. The rain making conditions very difficult and unpleasant.
He has a lazy style of kicking, Henry Paul, but he's been deadly accurate during the domestic season here in Super League and also in international football. Those stats prove that.
42 points, 43 including that drop goal in this tournament so far. This from 39 metres. Well, the predominantly English support behind the post cheered as that went wide.
They were happy. There was nothing wrong with the distance. Just drifted to the right-hand side of the post. And again, penalties given away, holding down.
That was Andy Farrell. Here's Vainikolo.
Yeah, it's likely that England will deploy Jamie Peacock before so very long in this game, shortly before half-time. He's a tackling forward. He has a 100% tackle completion rate in this tournament so far. The sort of impact player who could make a difference.
England will hope so. Swain. Stacey Jones. This time it's with Tony Carroll, who's going to be playing his club rugby with Leeds this coming Super League season. We'll see him first of all in the Challenge Cup starting in February. Henry Paul. Now Kearney, scorer of the only try so far.
And getting away again, New Zealand looking much sharper in thought and deed, causing problems. Henry Paul puts the kick into the corner. This is a test for Wellens.
Three New Zealanders converging on Wellens, who took that like the fullback that he often is.
Well, Nigel Wagner was there to put pressure on it, but Wellens did extremely well. Kept his eye on the ball and didn't shirk the task. He's used to those kind of high kicks, as you mentioned, in his role as fullback at St Helens.
Really made rapid progress, Paul Wellens, displacing Paul Aitchison midway through the season and making the role very much his own. But possession turned over. Henry Paul. Now here's Kalis. Swain. Kearney. Two outside him. He bounced off Paul Anderson to within 3 metres.
England will do very well to keep New Zealand at bay here. They have to do, though, before the half-time.
Still 10 minutes away from that. Henry Paul with the run around to Joe Vangenaar, well held. Combination of Sculthorpe and Smith. Richie Barnett. Henry Paul. Jones. Trying to switch the point of the attack, and it's gone loose, and it's been picked up by Fleary. And that tells you there's no shortage of support for the English team. A huge roar.
That was a mistake by New Zealand, but it was good pressure from England in defence, putting the tackle in, and Fleary eventually coming up with the ball, blowing a little bit, and a penalty. Ironic cheers around the ground. England get the penalty, quickly taken by Sean Long and put to touch. Forshaw driving it in. Kearney comes in, and number 4 again, Tallow, going a little bit high. The penalty given away. The quick tap taken by England. Yep, they're going to drive it up towards the middle. And then look for Long and Deacon swapping in the roles at a half-back. Anderson again coming forward. Smith spotting a gap and going through it.
Trying to offload the pass to Sean Long, who, as you saw just then, has got blood pouring from a mouth wound. Deacon to Farrell. So hard was the tackle that it's come loose. And now New Zealand could go all the way. Nigel Vangenaar. Wellens trying to get back at him. Despairing dive. Vangenaar has gone nearly 90 metres and wonderfully has been pulled back by Jamie Peacock, who's only just arrived on the pitch. England, though, in trouble. Vainikolo barging over. Tim Mander got a good view.
This will be a try.
His touch judges and gives New Zealand a second try.
Well, defence are one in the field. Bone-jarring defence, spills the ball from Farrell's grass, a full length of the field sprint, and then power at the end of it by Vanakola to score the try. Peacock did so well to get back just on the field, hardly had a chance to catch his breath and stretch. When he's forced to chase back, he made a despairing tackle to prevent New Zealand scoring through Nigel Wagner, but then his other wingman and partner in crime, Vanakola, just used his brute force to get across the line and score the try, and that was a shame for England because they'd done all the hard work in the previous set of 6 tackles. They marched up the field. It was a fantastic hit on Farrell, and then Nigel Wagner set sail. Wellens couldn't catch him. Senior was tracking but was going to get nowhere near, and Peacock, fantastic chase to bring him down just short of the try line. But England were always scrambling, always under pressure.
There are 1 or 2 England supporters who've seen these same replays who believe Vanakola didn't get the ball down properly.
Well, I think it's hard to argue with that shot, and the referee Tim Mander right on the spot. Henry Paul has another chance to add 2 points on.
And this time, unlike his last attempt, he's successful. And Frank Endicott, who's got a little black book in which he constantly makes notes, will be writing down that scoreline, 13-0, and we'll be very happy with it.
It will before the half-time interval. They've had a lot of possession, they've had a lot of territory in which to work and try and put the moves on to try and open up this England defence. It's been scrappy at times. Here's Farrell coming to the left, a great hit on Andy Farrell. Nigel Wagner just not quite having the pace to sprint the second row forward. He's on a substitute.
This time it's New Zealand's turn to make a mistake. The referee, though, will pull it up.
High-hanging kick, and Kearney for once makes a mistake. I was trying to see if it was Kearney that made the hit on Farrell. I'm not sure who's defending in that right-hand channel. I'm not sure Andy Farrell knows either.
No shock really that the England bench seriously questioned that Vanakola try. They all watched it very, very carefully on the big screen. They felt there was a question mark about it and that the referee should have referred to the video referee, but perhaps no surprise there then from that opinion from the England bench.
Here's Henry Paul. John Keir sitting right up in the upper tier of the stand to get a more panoramic view of proceedings. But he's in communication via walkie-talkie with his personnel on the bench. Here's Swain, the New Zealand hooker, right on halfway. Tries now by Kearney and Vanakola. 2 goals by Henry Paul and a drop goal by the same player. That makes up New Zealand's 13 points.
Chev Walker more safe in this occasion, trying to get it out into the middle of the field, being forced back towards his own post. A good chase again from New Zealand, kick into the corner and a great chase.
Oh, Wellens' balls comes loose. It is very slippery out there, but the force of New Zealand's tackling is forcing the ball loose as well. And here's Tony Carroll, and they can't stop him. Now has Carroll got it down? This time, the referee says that he's been held up on his back over the line.
Well, Wellens does incredibly well. I think he just manages to keep Tony Carroll from scoring the try and getting the pressure of the ball onto the grass. He gets back, he's the last line of defence, and just holds up Carroll, which is an enormous feat in itself to stop the powerful centre. Yes, he did well, that's no try. And again, mistakes by England, spilling the ball, allowing New Zealand to get possession in the crucial areas of the field.
Jones allowing Wiki to pick up from the base of the scrum and to peel over for another New Zealand try, and this game is rapidly going away from England.
A simple move from New Zealand, just making the numbers on the short side of the scrum, extending the lead. And that's a worry for England. Again, before the half-time interval, they wanted to keep New Zealand out. They've already scored that try from the break from Wagner, but this one, the scrum, simple move as Stacey Jones feeds. He drops off to the short side. The pick-up by Wicket, the spin as Wellens comes in, and the try scored. They just had the numbers. Remember that the wingman Wagner was still out there. Stacey Jones had stepped off. Wicket using the spin. Sculthorpe didn't make the tackle, couldn't hold on to the shirt. Wellens comes in, but on this occasion it's too late.
Andy Farrell laying down the law to his troops behind the posts. Henry Paul about to attempt another conversion, trying to make his record 3 from 4. And all this after Ruben Wiki repeated his feat of 2 years ago when he scored here at Bolton in the Test match against Great Britain. Two more points from Henry Paul, noted down by New Zealand's veteran coach, Frank Endacott. There's the little black book we were talking about. You got one of those, Joe?
I have, but I'm no need for it today. That's great scoring from New Zealand. Andy Farrell will be heartbroken with this one. Deacon had to peel off and cover Jones, but then once Wiki was allowed to go forward towards the line and Sculthorpe couldn't make the tackle, the try was always going to be scored.
Kearney, dominant take. New Zealand, who've never won the World Cup. Only once have they reached the final. They lost to Australia in 1988 in Auckland. In 1995, they lost the semi-final in heartbreaking fashion against the Australians at Huddersfield, 20 points apiece after 80 minutes. They lost 30-20 after extra time, and that after a last-minute drop goal attempt by Matthew Ridge had brushed the outside of the post. And that has been a motivating factor for New Zealand in the 5 intervening years, the memory of the nature of that defeat in the semi-final. Here's Willie Talau. New Zealand with much more of the time in their opponent's half, 60 to 40%. Henry Paul, taken late and taken down nastily by Fleary. And whilst play goes on behind the posts, the New Zealanders are defending their player in fairly aggressive fashion by going after Darren Fleary, who was late in his challenge on Henry Paul after the kick had been dispatched.
Paul made good contact. Fleary went in and lifted the forearm, the right forearm. Whether he made contact, I'm not sure, because Henry Paul did get up pretty quickly.
Well, Jimmy Molyneux, the touch judge, who's already been on once for the spat between Talau and Scott Naylor, must have had a very good view of that, and he's the middle of the 3 officials there. And he will be passing on what he knows to Tim Mander, the referee.
A late tackle. We're not 100% sure of the point of contact. We're going to whack it on report. Okay, but it's definitely for penalty.
It's going to go on report.
Down there where the ball landed. Let us look after the game. Don't you boys come in like that.
Well, Darren Fleary very, very lucky there, because that right arm was raised. He did make contact. I'm not sure that it was too much of a problem for Henry Paul, because he got to his feet quickly, but support came in for him from Joe Wagner and from Leslie Vanacola. The penalty downfield will be given to New Zealand right under the post, so another 2 points, I'm sure, for New Zealand through Henry Paul.
Well, in the old days, before the report system, the referee would have had to make an instant judgment on that. Henry Paul not too badly hurt, but definitely the victim of the assault by Fleary.
I think the intent was there, and that's a note for Coach Frank Endacott to make.
Henry Paul with a very straightforward attempt. Sean Keir looking disturbed by what's going on. This was not in his game plan as we enter the final minute of the first half, and New Zealand are ahead by a worryingly wide margin.
Henry Paul.
The crowd in the Reebok Stadium relatively quiet now, subdued. Farrell with the deep kick, taken by Barnett, and Fleary straight in there.
Well, it was Joe Wagner that came to the assistance of Henry Paul, and I think Fleary just making sure that his presence was felt in return. But it's a scoreboard that's the major worry for England. They've conceded an awful lot of points, they've made an awful lot of mistakes, they've given away soft penalties.
Well, feelings running very high as the first half draws to a close. One or two words in the ear of Darren Fleary from a couple of the New Zealanders. Maybe it's as well that half-time has now arrived so that tempers can be calmed, but 14 of the 21 points arriving in the 9 minutes prior to half-time. Vainikolo one of the try scorers, Kearney, and Wiki the others. 4 goals from Henry Paul, plus a drop goal as well. England paying for handling errors and for their own indiscipline.